Welcome to the Midlife Midsters Podcast, your podcast for inspiration on being bold and saying yes to making the most of midlife.
So it is exciting being here today because we're actually going to talk about something very specific and kind of going into 2025, what that looks like for us and hopefully for some of our listeners.
New year, new adventure.
So true, right? Well, a lot of people listen to our show, and we're so grateful for that. We love our podcast, and we love our podcast hosts that aren't here. They're going to be, you're going to see the usual characters here and there. So it'll be, 4 and 5 of us at different times, and sometimes just 2 or 3 of us. But the podcast actually came out of a bigger idea. So back in 2017, I started doing a blog just talking about adventurous living, basically for women in midlife. You've always kind of lived that way, especially in midlife. You and I grabbed our cameras and just started going and doing. And that was like a launching pad for us to look for opportunities that would allow us to take our cameras with us, which ended up kind of in adventurous travel. Mm-hmm. We found ourselves in Maine. Mm-hmm. And we go back often.
And Scotland.
And Smith Island. Yes, we've been to several places. And we're looking at wonderful places also for 2025. Mm-hmm. So to get to the point, even though we have a podcast, it's not going anywhere. But we are also launching a travel business for women in midlife. So it's women's travel. And I'm really excited about it.
Oh, I am too. Endless possibilities.
And we do it now, but in a less organized way, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we pull friends together. There's wonderful collaboration between women. Sometimes we have a camera, sometimes we don't. We do different things. And I think that's kind of what we're going to lean into moving forward as well. I'm just so excited. There's nobody I would do this with except for you.
Aw, thank you.
It's so true. We travel well together. I think we complement each other in the way we think and the approach. And then I have weaknesses and you pick those up, which is great as well. And you have a lot of wonderful strengths. So.
And vice versa.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah.
So I'm curious about, because we're just rolling it out. We haven't put a ton of thought into it, though we have become somewhat organized with some of the pieces. But logistically, we haven't done a lot. We do have 2 trips for 2025. So we're just going to hash out a little bit during this podcast because I'm curious, what you're thinking, and we may as well do it with people listening, see where we end up.
Sure. And I kind of like that we're just taking an idea and rolling with it because that's kind of how we started. We picked up our cameras and we just found places to go take pictures. I think, when we look back on the earlier pictures that we took, it seems like those were ever interesting subjects. We definitely developed a lot since then.
I
guess that's a double on time I developed. And I think the travel business will be the same way. It started with just sort of grabbing a bunch of friends and chartering a boat to go sail along the Maine coast.
Yeah.
And now it's going to be more than that. And I think the part of it that is most exciting to me and that I really think will be exciting to people is, adventure travel is a little bit of a misnomer because we're not going to be jumping off cliffs or swinging from trees. It's really, I think of it more as like fun travel, play travel, going out and having excellent times with other women and doing things that you really fully enjoy but wouldn't do on your own and probably honestly wouldn't do with your spouse.
Yeah.
Right. There's something about being with friends. And it's reminiscent of when we were kids and we played and we just got to know ourselves better through that play. And that's kind of, I think, where we're headed, right?
I think so. If somebody actually, my husband asked me like the why at one point, thinking about the why, like, why am I doing this? Why are you doing this? I'd love, you kind of answered that already. The why for me is the energy that I get from being around women. I love being around my family. I love being around my husband. I get energy for that. I'm not saying that I don't. But when you get 15 to 20 women that have lived life, they've been through all kinds of things, and they bring different backgrounds, different experiences with them, those conversations just ignite me. They fuel my thoughts. They fuel the way I want to live my life. So the why for me really has a big piece of being around women, that collaborative female energy that is just so precious to me. So it is going to different places and it is taking my camera. It's all of that. But I can do that by myself.
Mm-hmm.
I could do that with my family, and I do. But there's something very special doing it with a group of women, and especially women in midlife, which is a wide range. We travel with women that are 40 and older.
Yeah.
So it's a nice range. I think we've traveled with women up into their 70s and maybe even 80. So for me, that's the why. That's the why this specifically.
I think the why for me is really two things. One is you.
Aw, thank you.
Yes, I love hanging out with you. And this was really more your idea. And I'm like, I'm in. I would be in anything you eat because you have great ideas. No, I'm being serious. You have great ideas and you're fun to be with. And you're a good friend. And I just feel like, and I've told you this before, like your whole family has this entrepreneurial thing going on. If you think it's a good idea, it's a good idea. But also like, I really enjoy seeing people enjoy themselves because it really does spread. Like when you're with a bunch of people that are all happy, you just feel happier.
Right.
And so, some of the things we've done on some of these boat trips, like last year, we did karaoke and there were some folks, and I'm not naming names, who did not want to do the karaoke. But when the rest of the group got up and started singing, even those reluctant few got up and started singing. And wasn't it great?
It was great.
It was great.
I agree. I don't have a great voice. I'm so shy too. People don't think that, but
that's what makes it fun to travel with other women.
It's true.
It somehow feels a way like you're in a group that's way less judgmental. And I know your husband very well. You know my husband very well. They're not judgmental guys. They're absolutely fabulous. I still don't know that I'd feel 100% comfortable, singing in front of my husband or yours.
My husband would say, please don't. He's pretty frank. But you didn't. You encouraged me. It is that empowerment.
Yeah, it is. It is. And lots of good things come from that, And I also think like there's so much of the world to see and so many places, even just in this country to see.
Right.
And so this is a good mechanism to go see those places.
Right.
It's
true. We also tend to like the water, and we jump on these small boats as well in smaller groups. So maybe 6 to 8. And I'm sure we'll have travel groups about that size as well. And then the bigger ones. But, I think about the boat, the Angelique, look it up. Anybody can go. Us chartering it and having that big of a group was kind of the impetus. I mean, it was the beginning of realizing, and maybe it was the number of women or the length of time, or also the fact we were in quarters where we had to get up and have coffee together and breakfast and lunch and do all these things together. It just sold me that women were easy to travel with, number one. We do enjoy the little things too, just the cup of coffee and having small conversation. But it led to me feeling so confident in having women together and exploring our world around us that it's to me, it just lit a fire in me. Now, I like the smaller groups too, but I love the big groups.
The thing that really sort of made me think we were on the right track was, and I'm, again, not going to name names, but you'll know who I'm speaking of. One of the women that came on the trip a couple of years ago really initially was uncertain about whether this was the right thing. I mean, it takes a lot to go sailing on a schooner for a week and, in a tiny little cabin, shared bathroom where you have to step on the thing to flush it. It's a lot.
It is.
And at one point, about 2 days into the trip, I said, do you think you'd do this again? And this particular person said, no. But a couple days later, she came up to me and she said, do you remember what you asked me if I would do this again? She said, I wouldn't do it again with anyone else, but I would absolutely do it again with this group of women. And she did come back the next year. And that speaks volumes for what appeals to women. That you said it a minute ago. I mean, we're in sort of an isolated place where we have to be together. And that could go well or it could go really badly. But I think part of what makes it go well is we all come in with a certain energy, which I think you set that tone because you're just such a positive person and an energetic, happy person, and it spreads. And, we have lots of activities planned. So, so for our listeners, so it's not just like we don't just go places, we do things. So when we're on these boat trips, it's not just sailing around looking at scenery and eating, which is a big piece of it, but also karaoke night. And, we played nautical bingo and we row ashore and we go shopping and we had water color painting classes and just do different things that we don't make time to do in our day-to-day lives.
Right.
And it's playtime. And it's fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. The person you're referring to and also other people, it is so out of their comfort zone. Yeah. They're used to the Ritz-Carlton. They're used to like a private yacht. Not that this is this private schooner.
Not a yacht.
And the energy and the collaboration and the feeling that they felt on that trip soared way above the giving up comfort. And it is comfortable, but it is shared bathroom. I mean, we're making it sound very rustic, and it is in some ways, but in other ways, I mean, there's a chef, there's a baker. So, and the rooms are comfortable, but it's perspective. Some people have never camped. I think when you're thinking about travel, at least for me now, I love my family travel. I love traveling with my husband. It really gives me something that fills my soul. But this is a piece I didn't even know was missing. I didn't realize, you get in life during high school, you're doing the sleepovers. In college, you're collaborating with all your friends every night, eating pizza, drinking beer, whatever it may be. And then you get into the mode where you're in your career, you're raising a family. It's a different type of collaboration. And again, it's usually centered around conversations about your career, conversations about your kids and your husband. And I noticed that the conversations on these travel trips, it's a little bit of that, but it's also about how I'm going to live my life, how they're living their life, how they fuel it, what they want to do in the world. It's specifically about what women want to do. It's not about the bigger picture of what we do every day, but we're carving out that time that we're doing for ourselves now, but for others as well, and we're sharing it.
And that's why for the last couple of years, when we've had our first night on the boat, we always have a icebreaker activity. And you
do that. Thank you so much.
And I really try to set it up in a way where it encourages people to talk to one another, but not about the things we would ordinarily talk to. When you're meeting new people in a social circle in your ordinarily life path, you're talking about your career, you're talking about your husband, you're talking about your children. You're not talking about the fact that you once were a race car driver, or that you have jumped out of an airplane or have a pilot's license, or all the cool things, really cool things.
True.
And all of these women that we've traveled with so far have been super cool. Like, they've done really cool stuff. You would not know that because it wouldn't come up in conversation.
Yeah.
But the goal here is to create a place where people can live into that part of themselves. And I think it's really great. And also, we've walked away with so many new friends.
We have,
not just among the women we travel with, but the people that we're working with to provide the travel opportunity. It's awesome.
That's true. It started, you and I know, at least one of us knows everybody on that boat for the most part.
Right.
It'll be different. Oh, we'll see. But actually, there's a lot of people that want to continue doing these trips. But we hope to have some of the listeners join us and other people that don't know us to be able to reach out and jump in and do some of this travel as well. Going back to the icebreaker, I love that you do the different icebreakers. And in particular, this past year, it did lean itself to, for me to even dig deep about, okay, what have I done that's unusual that somebody would never, ever know? And it allowed me to tap into my old self. Like, it made me realize, yes, I did that and I did that. And I think that's great as well, because as we get older, these are pieces that fall behind that we need to pick up again, because there's still pieces of us. And now's the time that we can kind of live that and let it resonate a little bit of who we were and who we can be. right?
Yep, absolutely. I mean, and there's an endless array of places to go and things to do. And I think the challenge for us is figuring out which of those we're going to choose. What we're trying to do is weave together some things that are adventurous and outside of people's comfort zone, and some things that are sort of more traditional, what girls might do on a girls' trip.
Right.
So you might want to talk about that a little because you're the mastermind.
Oh my gosh. And we've put a little thought into it. I mean, there are things that I would love to do that my husband will not do, vice versa. As you know, he goes to UF and paranormal and all this stuff that I don't go. I am going on a 1980s band cruise. No. So I am doing that. But women seem to come together and like this adventurous stuff that maybe they wouldn't do with a spouse or their family, their kid, their children. We love unusual things in general. We will jump on boats. We love taking pictures of different cultural aspects, whether it's the Chesapeake Bay, wherever it may be, even in Scotland as well. So there will be mixed things. Also, another thing that will, depending on the temperature of the water at the time, will be, is it surfing with
paddleboarding?
Paddleboarding with dolphins. And so we'll look for adventurous things that maybe a family 6 or 4 would not want to do. Because honestly, what I'm finding out is women at our age, they just say yes. And that's our tagline in general for our podcast is boldly saying yes. And we do it.
We do. And then, we've got future plans to do things like maybe still do ladies and lassos.
Yes.
So something Dude Ranch, which I think could be great.
Right.
I'm envisioning a bunch of women singing campfire songs in front of a campfire while toasting s'mores.
And I'm like thinking of roping cats.
You tend to be, the more adventure side seems to be you, and the more, let's be cozy is me.
Although it makes a good team.
It does. We're paying, it's going to be a holistic kind of approach to having a fun time. So that's one thing that we've talked about. I would really love to, before very long, do something overseas. And you and I have been to Scotland together. I've been to Scotland separately. You, of course, have been to Scotland many times because your
family's there. Yeah.
But I think a Scotland trip would be awesome.
And there's so much to do there. So to give listeners also an idea of what that would look like, and it wouldn't be just us jumping in a car and touring and going to distilleries and maybe looking at sheep, the basics, or hiking. It would be, for me, what I'm thinking of would be going during the Highland Games and really watching where these activities and these games came from and the culture of the clans and why they did it. I think that would be adventurous. The other thing is like shearing of the sheep and heather cutting, all those kind of things as well. And that's an adventurous thing that I don't know that I would normally do with a family or by myself, but I think it would make for great adventure and great discussion. We both totally enjoy also learning the culture and why people do things.
Right.
Where that came from. And we've learned to do that a lot. I'm inspired by you. I'm inspired by a photographer, Jay Fleming, that has a nice boat that can go into low water and we get to explore the Chesapeake in a way we normally wouldn't. Mm-hmm. And I just love that because I'm learning as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that I know. I don't even hope. I know our travel will lean itself towards that. Also, for listeners, anybody that has a great idea, I'd love them to go on to AmericanMinsters.com. We have an email, which is AmericanMinsters@gmail.com. I'm starting to get quite a bit of email through that link. So I would love to hear what their ideas would be for travel as well, what they would look forward to.
Right. I think that's great because people have ideas that we just aren't going to come up with on our own. But it really is sort of focused on, so to give people sort of a guidepost, it's like things where we can be interactive with our environment. Like you said, sheep shearing. I think that would be really cool, actually. I would actually, anything I'm going to do with animals, I'm usually on board. Okay, aside, have to tell a story, though, about going to Scotland and climbing over the fence to
tell the story. It involved us.
We went to Scotland with this photographer who was sort of our guide, and he pointed out that in Scotland there are no real property laws. You can climb over a fence and into anybody's land if you want to, and just like there's a right to ramble, I guess.
And our ears went straight up.
Because we were obsessed, we being me, with hairy coo, the Highland cows, which are called hairy coo. And so we're driving along and we see this herd of hairy coo in this field that was sort of below us down this hillside. So we had to climb over a fence and down the hill and over a little stream, over some rocks. And we find ourselves on the other side of this rocky stream, approaching this herd of hairy coo. And the head hairy coo turned and looked at us with murder in his eyes. And we were like, oh, wow, maybe we went too far. And we backpedaled and managed to get out of there. So we are mindful.
We had a lot of running to do, though.
Yeah, we did.
I mean, it wasn't like the car was 2 blocks away. It was up on a road.
Uphill.
Uphill. But along the way, we took some great pictures walking down there as well. Remember the skulls? I mean, just different things.
And it was just so cool. And also a reminder, like when dealing with wildlife, one must be careful. So we will be careful. But it was just a great adventure and something to talk about and something to remember. And the photographs of that day are really special. Because
they are. We know the story. The gentleman behind it, I think, might have been more scared than that.
Well, he was the one who said it was okay. And misjudged there.
Those skinny legs went running too. Yeah. That was funny. But I think safety first.
Yeah.
And we thought we were safe and we ended up being safe. But it was interesting.
But it was also so fun.
It was
such a fun day.
Such impromptu stuff as well.
Yeah.
And I'd like to, probably do both of those things. We stayed at Bed and Breakfast. We got to know other people from the country and from other countries that were traveling. But we went off the beaten path we didn't just stay in Edinburgh and St. Andrews. I mean, it was truly an exploration of culture as well.
And your sons went salmon fishing and we were standing on the banks of that cold water, taking photos of them, wading in it.
So during that trip, I had a son that was in Glasgow getting his grad degree. And my other son, I think he just came to visit. And it happened to be while we were on a trip, which was great.
So maybe we could take some
salmon fishing was neat.
We could take some ladies salmon fishing. That
True.
would be very fun.
Yeah.
I think a fishing trip would be awesome.
I promise that these trips are going to be out of the ordinary. And they're going to be so exciting. And they're going to be experiences that probably wouldn't do again.
Yeah. And I think they also encourage people to look at their travel with their spouse or with their family in a different way. Right. Because I know that I do now. And part of it is really sort of focusing a little bit more on when I go to a place, really getting to talk to people. Right. Like, where am I? Who am I with? Who am I meeting? What is their life like? How is it like mine? How is it different from mine? Conversations with people at the next table in a restaurant. Why not? And just like looking for the things to do that are off the beaten path.
Right.
So, maybe
personal growth.
Yeah. And it just the carryover from the trips that we've taken together and with our female friends into my other travel experiences has been great.
The reward in putting yourself out there, extending yourself, not just to the people in our group, but everybody that we interact with, it is huge. I mean, it's big. And we take that away. I mean, that's such a gift. It's such a gift. Going back to our boat trip and other types, we do other things in Maine, but we have developed incredible connections.
Yeah, we really have.
And the people around us that we had the opportunity to get to know. I think it's about the photographer in Belfast, Maine, Neil Parent and his wife, and Kennedy. I mean, there's
Dennis, the captain of the Angelique.
Really
become a good friend. Bradley, the chef. These are people we wouldn't have met otherwise.
It's true. And that's definitely enticing and a piece of why I want to travel in a deeper way, not just a tourist way. I don't think this really isn't like checking off boxes of seeing certain landmarks. That's not what our travel is. It's not what it's going to be. It's something very different. And I'm excited. I can't wait. We need to put more trips on for 2025. So check our website out.
And if you have ideas, share them with us because we really, the sky's the limit. We just need some input so we can figure out what makes sense for us to pull together.
Yeah. And we're doing this. So if you're interested, get on board. Let us know. You can find out everything that you want about this in the future come January at AmericanMidsters.com.